So patch 11, 8.11 notes. So I've been talking a lot about League of Legends recently, but my recent League of Legends talks have been mainly talking around the idea of the overall game as opposed to the current meta or any of that. I'm talking about like the really broad range stuff, and typically I don't like to cover that when it comes to patch notes. Then we're just focused on the nitty gritty. So patch 8.11 is part of, I would say, their mid-season update. Like the way I see it is like they took away mid-season update, right? And they're breaking it up into 3 patches. 8.9 was mages, 8.10 jungle, 8.11 is ADs. And so this is part of a series of really sweeping big patch reworks that essentially should change the game up. And what Riot really needs to do, in my opinion, is to change the game up. I think that we've kind of got stuck in this kind of situation where the meta has been very somewhat stagnant. Even if the champions have come in and out of meta, generally the style of the meta is a little bit stagnant. So I would like a lot of change to happen, and I guess we'll see what they bring about in this patch, in these patch notes. They'll bring a bunch of marksman changes and runes, with shifting stats around the roster, opening door for non-crit builds to shine. Many of these options will be pretty appealing to 85ers and assassins. We got this follow-up tuning to patch. The last patch's work on the jungle, we're seeing teams adjust to Rift Sculler. We're slightly lengthening its respawn. Okay, whatever. Cool. Pyke is a new assassin support coming into the game. He is cool. I will be playing him. He will be my new main anytime I get support. Great. Anivia. So Anivia relatively weak, or especially early game pre-6. What are they doing? Q cooldown decreased at early ranks. Q damage ratio increased. 8.9 mana changes hit Anivia harder than most mages, so we're looking to give some of her power back. So she gets 2 seconds off her cool. Wow, that's pretty big early. And her damage ratio goes up by 1.0 because it applies both through and on the detonation. That's really good, actually. I'm surprised Anivia got these buffs. I haven't seen her. Okay, Anivia's always been a champion I don't see much, because the only people who play her are like the really big Anivia mains, and when they do play her, she's very good from what I've seen. And she's always generally counterpicks champions like Anivia, or sorry, like Vladimir, like Ryze. Like she's been generically pretty good against and a lot of the AD assassins and low range threats. She's been very good against. And so it's been really hard for me to say Anivia's been weak. I would say generally Anivia's always been underplayed. I guess maybe I'm biased because whenever I see Froggen play this champ, I just think this champ's OP. But really it's just Froggen that's OP, right? So anyways, let's keep going. Graves. Base AD decreased, R cooldown decreased. Is literally the best jungler in the game right now, if not one of the best junglers. So what they're doing is taking 380 off, and it increases cooldown by 10 seconds. Okay, well he's still going to be the best jungler in the game, and this wasn't enough. So I don't know what to say. I expected more nerfs onto this champion. He's literally getting banned every single game with Xin Zhao. Literally every game. Okay. Kha'Zix. R cooldown decreased at later ranks. Stealth duration decreased. Evolved R grants additional costs. Cast and stealth duration no longer grants stealth or movement speed in bush. One thing every assassin needs is a way to dance in and out of the fight and safely put out damage. For Kha'Zix, that's the stealth from Void Assault. The brush stealth was currently giving far too much strength. Correct. I think if you wanted to nerf Kha'Zix, his ulti was the most OP. So what did they do? They decreased the stealth duration, increased the evolve stealth duration by 0.75 seconds comparatively to the nerf, and you can get 3 casts instead of 2. Interesting. 2 seconds is a long time, especially if the current duration is getting decreased. Well, this is definitely a healthy way to rework Kha'Zix. I think regardless, I think our evolve might still be fairly good. I just think Kha'Zix should have been nerfed a long time ago. Like this should never have been in the game, because this is one of the most frustrating champions to deal with, especially when they snowball. I don't know what his relative strength is, because maybe even Q evolve or like W evolve Kha'Zix early is actually really strong. However, nothing really compares to ulti evolve. I think whatever happens, this is overall going to be a great change. What kind of scares me is that Kha'Zix with Xin Zhao and like one other champion were one of the control valves to Graves. And with Kha'Zix getting nerfed, Graves is only going to get stronger as a result. And I don't think his complementary nerfs did anything to this champ. This champ's still gonna be first pick, first ban. Kindred. Mark respawn time decreased. First mark spawns earlier. Rift Scuttle assist now correctly marks. Okay, the increased importance of Rift Scuttle make it harder for Kindred to gather marks. So her passive goes down. And Rift. Okay, so this is really nice. Assist on Rift Scuttle is now. This is great because it's a really big objective. She's gonna fight for it. Cool. This is overall. I'm like a little bit afraid of Kindred because Kindred for me is just another version of Graves. And everything Graves is kind of good at, Kindred is similarly good at, but provides a very unique utility. And so at some point, let's say Graves is like the pick into Trundle, because Trundle is counters physical melee champions, and people are like, well, what beats physical melee, like a counter to physical melee champions that can only counter them at melee range? Well, we're gonna pick Graves, someone that can do at long range and can therefore smack around these like kind of anti-melee bruisers as well as any tanks. And so Kindred, for me, follows a very similar route in the sense that she can also beat down on these champions as well, and tends to scale fairly well as well, but doesn't have, typically needs a little bit of help to get going, which is what Graves doesn't. And so the more buffs that Kindred sees, a little bit scary, because I think the champion can be very dangerous in the right hands, but overall, I'm not too worried about these buffs. They're nice. LeBlanc can now queue up casts of W and RW in either order. Cool. It's slightly helpful. I generally think LeBlanc is still one of the better AP assassins in the game, if not one of the best AP assassins in the game. So I don't think her relative strength is bad at all. She may be outclassed by other picks, but I think the entire like kind of field is outcast by certain picks in the game. And so cool. Slight buff. Lee Sin, so he's a little bit weak right now. Energy store on passive increase. WQE now apply cooldown reduction. What? So his energy restores a little bit more. Okay. This is nice. Timer displays on icon showing second cast availability. That's really nice. I like that a lot. Cooldown reduction now applies for the duration of the reactivation time. Oh. That means you're going to be able to do insane stuff now. Because you, by holding the Q on someone, the cooldown didn't start till after it ended, right? Is this a nerf? I'm pretty sure that's a buff. I'm pretty sure the way this works is when you hit, okay, let's say you're against a training dummy, you hit the Q. Your cooldown for your first application doesn't start until both Qs are used. However, now the cooldown reduction is applied for it's not that it goes on as it continues, it's just that the CDR applies. Does that make sense? I don't think it's going to be like a 3 Qs in a row. It's just going to be like you get a couple seconds off at the very end. The wording on it is a little bit strange. I think that's what it means. It's good. It's a slight buff to you depending on how much CDR you get. It's the more CDR you have, the more you're going to notice this, and you're going to see slight seconds off of all of your abilities when it comes to mid to late game. The wording is really weird, but you're gonna get slight seconds of cooldown back on your abilities mid to late game. That's all you need to know. It's a buff. Cool. I think Lee Sin's relatively weak right now. I love Lee, so any kind of buffs to him. And I also think that these won't send them over the top. Rakan, Q base shield decreased, E base shield decreased. For support that's so much harder to engage, to sustain Rakan brings the lane is a bit overwhelming. Okay, they're nerfing the base shield, but the AP ratio still exists. And they're nerfing the base shield. Okay. I mean, I think Rakan's the best support in the game, if not the second best support in the game. So I think any nerfs are completely warranted. He's something that does really, really well with the current rune system. So he needs nerfs across the board. And so they nerfed his sustain in lane. I am down for that. Maybe he could use a little bit more, but kind of let's see where Rakan is before this situation's done. I don't think that this is that much though. Generally, like I think Rakan's still gonna be super strong. This is the most important nerf, which they nerf 20 off of his E at 1, which gets maxed much later. But he's still gonna be very, very, very good. And I don't think that this was enough to keep him from being like top 2. Talia, you're probably gonna want to read this one. Okay, a lot of strengths and great pro play. A lot of that comes from key wave clears. The bulk of mechanical changes focus on one ability. Talia will have to work harder to shove away with roams, so her opposing later has more room to replenish these roams, or decreasing the terrain control she brings from ulti. What the heck? Okay, what the heck? They made her move speed 15 more. What? Her combat lockout has 2 seconds. Wow, so her passive is way better too. So she moves real, and then she no longer gets AoE. Minions no longer take reduced damage. No longer gets movement speed on work ground. Oh, that's why they buffed her stuff. Cast Q on work ground no longer refunds mana. Oh, okay. While work ground Q cost is reduced to one mana. Am I reading this right? Okay. So this, okay. Let's read the rest. I'm really kind of interested on this. So seismic stuff gets a big buff, 12 seconds all ranks. You're maxing this last, so this is actually like a 4-second buff for your entire duration, from like 1 to 13, which is great. Unraveled Earth, initial explosion damage. They removed it? Oh, so you can't AoE as much, I guess? And the wall duration got nerfed to 5 seconds. Okay. This champ will suck in the current meta. Because the current meta is based all about AoE. And even if it wasn't the current meta, her losing shoving tools directly impacts her kit. Even her rework kit, right? So how are you gonna use this reworked ground? Or work ground Q mana cost reducing to 1. So in theory, this is what should happen. You shove them into the tower, and while they're under tower, you're throwing rocks at them, right? You're just like, step up, I dare you, dude. Go for it. Go for that CS. And you slowly work from there. And the way that this is gonna work now is that while you're like getting shoved in by the opposing player, you're gonna be standing and you're gonna be like, stop it, dude. I said stop it, and you're gonna throw it at the melee minion, and they're gonna shove all the way through your melees and ranged while you're throwing stuff at the melee minion, being like, dude, last patch I could have done this, dude, come on. And I don't, this is like cute, this is a cute thing, but it's only like workable really if you can shove. And so her losing all of her AoE, okay, I used to always think of Talia as like the worst version of TF, because Talia brought all the lane control that TF did it and wave clear, but also brought global pressure, and so she actually crowded out TF from seeing much play. So one of the positives about this situation is that the strength of TF I think might increase, because one of her direct like competitors in terms of the shove and global role just got nerfed. So all TF players out there, I mean, maybe Talia players might turn into TF players. Yeah, I think this is gonna be incredibly difficult to play, and it just looks like a straight nerf to the kit. I would have liked them to do something with her W. Let's say if you throw a champion into the ground with your W, it seismic slams the ground and does AoE damage, which also potentially could wave clear. And on that situation, then I'm very happy, because at least there's some avenue for me to shove the wave. If it revolves around me hitting a really difficult ability to do it, at least I can kind of rationalize, okay, Scarra, dude, if they play really bad, but like you're playing like out of your mind, like you're channeling Faker and you like seismic slam them, you can like AoE them, harass them, and clear the wave. Like, I can kind of see that, right? But there's no options. You don't have the ability to do that anymore. I don't see how she's gonna get played, like, at all. And I understand, look, I understand. You think that her relative wave clear is too high, right? Cool. I actually kind of agree. Her wave clear is a problem. So with that being said, hear me out. If Talia's wave clear is a problem, that means as I'm going through the next couple of champions, I should see Aurelion Sol as the first champion that's getting nerfed when I get to the S section of the names, right? That just because you don't want this level of wave clear in the game. So if that's true, Sol should be gone instantly. Oh, that's funny. What happened? Oh, sorry, it's Aurelion Sol. Sorry, I think of the S. So there is no Aurelion Sol nerf. So I feel bad because from my perspective, if they're looking to be like, look, we don't want this level of wave clear in the game, which it's unhealthy for the game to have one champion have this much wave clear. I agree with that concept. So let's nerf the champions that have a ton of wave clear, dude. Let's Sol, just take him out. Talent, maybe think of a unique way to wave clear now that he is like such a big problem. All these issues with champions that wave clear too much, sure, let's talk. But for Talia to get the first nerf, when Sol has been a problem for equally as much time, that's real interesting to me. I would have expected at least both of them to get nerfed at the same time. Anyways, let's keep going. Urgot, collision radius decreased, base damage attack speed increased, passive damage to monsters increased, are no longer roots. Urgot ways grinding a champion to death. Wow, that's so nice. We're making Urgot a bit more fluid to play? Yes. Should we some of the anti-juggling tuning from his kit? What? I've never played Urgot and was just like, oh god, I really wish I could kill that red buff this time. It's like... Okay, obviously collision radius is big. Is nice. You don't get hit by AoE because you're a fat champion. Base attack speed is great because a lot of times you're looking to, when your W is down, you're looking to auto attack to proc your passive constantly. And especially because it's a base attack speed increase, that means any attack speed you're going to get from buffs like Ardent Sensor, not that you're going to buy any attack speed on this champion in the first place, but Ardent Sensor might make it so actually be more useful. So yeah, I'm surprised this 60 at 1? That's so much. I can get 3 procs on the same camp for sure. For sure I can get 3 or 4 procs on a camp. He might be an interesting jungler. That's a lot of damage at 1. It's max damage for sure. It's max damage, so this is only gonna be accounting for like buff monsters, right? Who knows? Maybe I don't really see it. We'll see. W Purge can now be cast during other abilities? Wait, that's so nice. And then Urgot's no longer rooted while grinding a victim. That's so nice. This is really important. You don't understand. The importance of this is the fact that Urgot AoE fears when he grinds someone to death. So what you do when what happens is a lot of times when I'm playing Urgot, I like to use the fear, position myself into them, and then grind them up. And so what you can do now is as you're bringing the person back, if you flash into the enemy team, bam, that's your disruption AoE ability. This is really, really important. Because also what happens if you're allowed to walk into the enemy team? Because that's a problem. That's a problem as it is. Just being able to move means you have that much more to be able to contribute that you're able to do on your own. So yeah, flash ulti is gonna be an initiation tool or an extension of a team fight. And I'm gonna be happy to see that because it makes Urgot more cooler to play. Both of these things are really, really nice. Even though these aren't direct buffs, I don't even care about these things, right? These things alone make the champion just less what do they call it? More fluid. It's less clunky. And I think that's exactly what you want when you're playing Urgot, because this champion came in with so much clunkiness into his kit. I don't know if you guys remember how they ended up, I think, fluidity fixing him twice already, once or twice, because he was already very clunky on release. And I think these will only help make him feel like more of a nice champion to play. So very, very happy for these. Victor, this Q discharge damage increased at later ranks. Our damage ratio increased. 8.9 mana changes hit Victor harder than most mages. Yes, he's a problem. It's really problematic for him. Give me some power back. This doesn't help Victor. Right? This doesn't help Victor at all. This actually doesn't help Victor at all. Victor's problem is he's bad early game. You know, whenever I see like Dunn play Victor, and when Victor hits 3 items, Victor's a monster. Like two plus items, Victor's really good. But hitting there without falling behind is the big problem. And like if you gave something where it's like Q mana got decreased, E mana got decreased, you know, Q early damage got increased. You know, that's like buffs to Victor's problem area, right? What this is saying is that the mana changes hit Victor hard, and the mana changes pretty much worked around like the early to mid game timing, and this only buffs the mid to late game, both of these. And so I think that they just went the completely wrong way with buffs. If they wanted to buff Victor this way, don't tell me that they're upping his damage when he commits to fights, but that's not his problem. And I think that they could have done something completely different. Like I at least would have been like, you know what, I could see where it'd be a struggle for them to buff Q damage early, because it's actually in poke with Aerie, Victor is really, really strong. Maybe like buffing the mana cost a little bit would be helpful. Like anything, I'm down for that. You know, I actually think Victor needs a little bit, and it would directly then relate to the mana changes that Victor got hit harder with. I just think that they kind of went a different route than they should have for Victor. This is better. Rather, it makes him an early wave clear bot, becomes a better team fighter. He was never a bad team fighter. His problem is he can never get the team fights before the game's over. Okay, let's keep going to Senzao. This champion with Graves, really problematic. But funny enough, Graves is a good... or Senzao is a good way to deal with Graves as well. Like, he's one of the few champions that can get on Graves. So again, nerfing Senzao makes Graves even better. So what happens here? Basic attack damage growth decreased, ESO decreased. The skill changes increase the value of early fights, sure. Senzao definitely excels at this world, yes. Having early game is a problem, but even translate that so easily in strong mid game is concerning, yes. We're telling that his offensive scaling his ability to stick to opponents and forcing him to fight, so he'll have to work harder for that mid game edge. Okay, that's a pretty big buff, nerf. Nerfing the slow by 20%, that's considerable. Like I approve completely of both of these nerfs. I think maybe since this might hurt him a lot, but he is actually that problematic for champion at the moment. However, this is a large nerf to this champion. This champion, Graves, did not get nerfed nearly as much. I'm very worried right now where we're in a world where Graves' main 2 meta counter picks or main 2 picks that do fairly well into Graves got nerfed, and now he's just God. So I guess I'm just prepared for another 3 weeks where I just ban Graves, because if anything, he only gets better by contrast after this patch. Zyra E root duration increase. Ooh, okay. Contribute slightly less in skirmishes than we like, but we definitely not comfortable increasing her already high damage. That's true. She does a lot of damage. Okay, so they're increasing her damage by making it so that she's rewarded more for landing CC. This is actually nice. Like, for sure, people don't realize how much this matters. Having extra 0.25 seconds, that's great. That's so good. Ignore my screaming roommate. But I like this a lot. I think Zyra's in a good spot, and I think that, you know what? Or not, I think current Zyra's in a weak spot, and this will push her up. I really like what they're doing with Zyra. Cool. So the champions that they didn't hit that I wish they did, Soraka, really, really problematic champion. Similar to Recon in that she's really, 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 really annoying and exploits Scorch and Aerie a lot. Didn't see a nerf. I think she's relatively been new, but she should definitely be nerfed next patch. Nerfing Talia is really interesting. I think Talon and Aurelion Soul should be close to next on that list if you're looking at wave clear champions. I think Graves is going to get nerfed almost for sure, because they didn't really touch him here, but they're going to have to touch him again. And I really liked the Urgot stuff. Really liked the Zyra stuff. Thought the Victor stuff was not the right way to take it. And I'm surprised about the Anivia buff, but she probably deserves it. It's not a big deal. Okay, Marksman base stat adjustment. The dominant strategy in bot lane over time has been sustaining through lane and catching up with team fights. Sure, yes. Between health regen and fleet footwork, it's pretty hard to put the hunt on Marksman in a way that they can't just recover from. Yes, agreed. Weakening Marksman's sustain means damage will stick on Marksman, yes. Making 2v2 fighting more successful, all great. Shifting some durability from armor into health should also let aggressive Marksmans like Draven and Lucian shine a bit harder in early game. Cool, I like that. Finally, we're nerfing... Oh, yeah, they didn't nerf Kai'Sa Aurelia either, which is pretty problematic. Also, we're nerfing basic attack damage by 4, pushing that damage into a growth stat with a break-even point around 9. Okay. So, pretty much across the board, they just nerfed armor to health, and they nerfed health regen. I got it. Cool. And then that's great. Honestly, that's really, really good. I think that is the right way that you should be taking nerfs. Overall nerfs, especially for roles like this. I'm completely on board. But you know what? They forgot about the patented AD cannon from Reckless. So, no. Better watch out for that rat. It's gonna come up and take all these ADs down. I think this pretty much demonstrates every single AD that they think is an AD. So when they ignore stuff like Corki and stuff like Quinn, you can kind of expect them not to consider them actual marksmen. I'm sorry if you guys identified as marksmen, if you main either of those champions. Unfortunately, you've been told what's right. Riot's that put down the law on you guys. All right, everything's pretty much homogenous across the board. Cool. Yeah. Hunter's Machete compensation. So Hunter's Machete is pretty bad now. And they buffed Talisman. So Talisman became like the OP thing to buy first. What the heck? They buffed Yi. They buffed Nocturne. These two champions are the ones that the only ones that were hurt. Why did they buff Diana? Were people juggling this champion? I always thought this was people were messing with me. Oh, just the 0 level attack speed was buffed. So her levels 1, 2. This doesn't really mean anything then. It's just like her very first clear. Nah, don't worry about it. This literally doesn't mean anything. Okay. Let's move on to some items. Now, this is the spicy stuff in this patch. Storm Razor, upfront burst and lots of kiting. So I will think of a lot of these items as AD assassin items. I will compare them to AD assassins because I specialize in a lot of AD assassins. So I'll be thinking, how do I exploit these items or use these items for certain ADs that maybe aren't the marksman that Riot wants? Just as a heads up. Marksman itemization is pretty focused on marksman when a stand and basic attack. With Sword Razor, we're introducing the item for marksman, longer pauses between attacks when they're kiting or just have long cooldowns looking at you, Jin. Okay. BF Pickaxe Dagger. Pretty nice build path generally. 70 AD, 30% attack speed, pretty good stats. If you haven't attacked in the last 3 seconds, your next basic attack will critically strike 160% damage and 10% move speed. It's really good for people who don't want extended fights. We're looking at champions like Quinn, who might want to go get in one and done, but also is for champions who need attack speed. If you're playing an assassin, this stat alone is very mediocre a lot of times. This is not really an assassin item. Don't get me wrong, I might try it. This proc might be worth it, but when I'm thinking about like Dustblade is essentially this proc, right? And the move speed is not high enough to where super matters. Maybe certain assassins might want to try it, but so far I see this being as like maybe this active really like just is great with Zed, right? Maybe this is just like a Jin item, right? Quinn, Jin, probably Gameplank. Probably Graves is okay. Duskblade procs and crit with this. Well, maybe Assassins will buy both. You know, Corki is. I can see Corki with this as well. Actually, Corki's a champion that scales really well with attack speed. So, Tryndamere. This is less of a marksman item than I expected. Because most marksmen may not want this. Because usually. Oh, this is definitely a Draven item. Sorry, I forgot about that champion. Because this is gonna be something where I think any longer than 3 seconds, this is like, God, this item is reverse lethal tempo. If you trade, you want your trades to be 4 seconds or less, pretty much. If you're using this item, you're in there for 2 auto attacks, and during those 2 auto attacks, they better be dead, or like 4 seconds of damage, they better be dead. So. It's really interesting. Okay, let's see the new IE. This is not as much marksman-y as I thought, to be honest. So this is, yeah, this might be used on less marksman and more non-marksman than actual marksman use this item. Infinity Edge. Try crit, try more crit. We're making IE a true scaling item for marksman. One which amps the power crit cycle by itself isn't a crit item. Okay, so off the bat, it means that this should not be bought first item ever. Straight up never. Doubles your critical strike chance. 15% of crit damage is converted to true damage. Okay, interesting. Warren's Masterwork upgrade are both unchanged. All right, no problem. Thank you for clarifying the Masterwork upgrade, by the way. Right, that's what I was really worried about when I was reading this. That means, ooh, you double your crit chance. This will always come after the seal item. Okay. Gameplay will probably love this. I think Yasuo will do really well. This would conquer on with Yasuo. I'm just like, holy shit. He's gonna just be punishing people with a lot of true damage. And that's probably like, that's a problem because Yasuo tends to dip into a lot of crit itemization and just make it overpowered. And so I can, it's a little bit scary because he's already in a very strong state right now. Probably one of his strongest metas for him personally. And so I'm a little bit worried by that, but I do like that it's no longer a first buy item. I've seen so many situations where I see like Draven or I see like Twitch, I see like Caitlyn first buy this item. I'm just like, get this out of my face. I don't think you should stop doing this. And so it's not optimal anymore. So people will be going like Zeal into this, for instance. Let's keep going. Essence Reaver, the ultimate power spike, intended to be alternative late game scaling for marksmen who care more about spellcasts. However, it turns out once you have Essence Reaver, you also want Infinity Edge. At that point, you also want a Zeal item. At that point, you might as well build up to 100% crit. You're right. The overall effect is a core build of 4 items that didn't allow spellseeker marksmen much choice at all. You're right. We're reshaping Essence Reaver around a new power spike, allowing spellcasting mages to double down on their spell slinging fantasy. Okay, let's see what they got. Okay, so BF Caulfield's Sapphire 450 gold. Okay, toss this out. It's cheaper a little bit. Critical strike restore 3%. Basic attacks. Okay, that's nice. Oh, it's missing mana only, so it's better lower. After casting your ultimate, your next basic attack within 10 seconds grants 30% attack speed, causing basic attacks to refund 20% of your remaining non-ultimate cooldowns. This is gonna be so OP. Holy shit. This is literally like, I read this item, I'm just like, there's so many people that are just gonna go ape shit with this item. Lucian already, I know, gonna be god mode with this item. Corki is gonna be the champion that does super well with this item. Yeah, anything with an attack speed modifier that also uses crit, go for it, man. Kaisa is probably going to be pretty good with this too. God, if this works on Jace transform, this could be bonkers, you know? And it's like, I don't think it does, because usually Jace and Udyr get the shaft when it comes to ulti activation stuff. But like, for instance, I think about that, I'm just like, oh my god, Jace would have a field day with this item. It works on transform. This is something where, okay, so Riot's essentially trying to say we're gonna shift power away from crit ADs, right? That's what they're saying, because this is a really scaling oriented item. So this really becomes good at the 3rd item mark, pretty much, or maybe at 2 items, like maybe Zeal. No, the 3rd item mark, I becomes worthwhile, 3rd or 4th. So with that being the case, we're pushing crit ADs to the side, right? Games just took a sweep of their hand. They're a little bit weaker, and in their place, we're introducing these champions that were a little bit like maybe not in the meta. We're talking about stuff like Lucian, like Draven, and trying to increase their relative power. Let me look at the other stuff. So Lucian, Draven, MF, probably good. Callista with this. Jhin can also use this as well. But what's really scary is the idea that these might even just be really good on their appropriate, on the best ADs right now. Because actually, when you think about the best ADs in the game, Kaisa and Ezreal are two at the top. And neither of them are super crit reliant at the moment, with Ezreal buying 0% crit. And so the way that I see it is like, maybe we're just making those 2 champions stupidly OP. But that might be what Riot has to do, and then nerf those 2 champions down to make it so that the other champions see relative play. And I think that's probably what they have to do, because you just can't raise the power level of the non-crit ADs without introducing items that are good for them. And sure, some of the ones right now are very good on some of the non-crit super strong ADs on live. And that means that once this gets put into the game, I'm definitely expecting to see nerfs onto both Ezreal and Kaisa, because I think they can use they can use items like this pretty much just as well as anyone else. Last Whisper, bonus armor pen shifted to total armor pen. The problem with armor pen is that it only feels good against armor stackers. Most champions don't feel about getting it early to ensure their damage is relevant as enemies build armor. They would be killing switchy targets instead. But once tanks really armor up, damage dealers feel bad. They didn't purchase Last Whisper. We're moving Last Whisper to a middle ground, so it still scales against tanks, but it feels less of a dead end against other squishies. That's really low. Targets total armor pen? That'd be more than 10%. Oh, it goes up to 25 and 35. What? Total armor pen is stronger than bonus, meaning LDR scales better with itself to keep the focus on armor pen rather than raw damage output. We're trimming some attack damage and putting the price point higher. So they're making it a little bit more expensive to buy this. Mortal Reminder scales better with to keep the focus on armor pen. We're trimming some attack damage, putting the price higher. Why is this armor? This went from 35 to 35. This went from 35 to 25. Is it? Do you pay 10% for the utility that Mortal Reminder brings? I think so. Interesting. That's one way to do it. I actually don't mind that. I think there should be a punishment for taking Mortal Reminder for Grievous Moons. I don't necessarily know if this is even. I think Lord Dominic's was better against tanks than this, actually. The old one. If anything, I just think that generally I'm more interested in this item now as an assassin than any time before. This might be maybe that sounds a little bit bad, and it probably kind of is. I also think the first iteration of Last Whisper is very weak. Going from 35 to 10, and then you're looking at 25. This is so much weaker than it used to be before. Because I think people are going to be very, very, very annoyed to buy Last Whisper now. Yeah, it's total armor. I mean, I don't know. I think of ADs, and I'm just like, when ADs buy this and be happy, they're gonna have to buy the tanks, right? Regardless, it's literally old Last Whisper. I know. I just think as an assassin, I like these changes more than as an AD. I don't know if I should feel that way, but maybe. The one biggest thing that's surprising me is this. When they made this statement that says, it only feels good against armor stackers that most people don't feel good about getting early to ensure the damage is relevant as people build armor. But once takes armor up, damage dealers feels bad that they didn't purchase it earlier. So I have a direct problem with this statement because this line itself only takes the damage dealer's feelings into account. So like, I obviously play damage dealers, right? I play assassins, all this stuff. And while we are talking about AD itemization, like, I mean, the tanks build armor to negate damage. Like, they don't build armor because they want to, right? Like, they build armor because it's optimal against the enemy team comp, and it should feel, I think that it should feel that building armor negates damage, physical damage. And so I just think like this statement right here, just in general, that's just the state of the game and how it should, and maybe how it should be. But I guess Riot's moving away from that, so maybe not. Anyways, I think this might be weaker against tanks than originally expected, because I remember the new Lord Dominic's Revenge actually was actually stronger against tanks than before. So I guess this is kind of interesting. The biggest thing for me is just that you get less total armor pen for getting the Grievous win. That's pretty much it. Cool, let's keep moving. I don't want to spend too much time on this. IE amplifying crit significantly, pushing its price point up. Wow. You can only buy one crit glove and it's 600 gold. That's insanely expensive. We're retiring Cloak of Agility. Okay. Zeal costs 1300 now. Alright. And you get less crit. Wow. That is gonna, okay. Rapid Fire is more expensive. Shiv is more expensive. Holy shit. So because of IE, crit items got more expensive and they give less. But until you get IE, crit's gonna suck. It's gonna feel worse. And so like, yeah, these crit scaling ADs are not gonna have a fun time looking at some of these itemization. Lifesteal item. Overall, the costs of Marksman building are going up, so it feels safe to make lifesteal items cheaper. Okay. Broken Thirster are cheaper. Cool. Azra will be happy about this. Really, who uses Bork right now? No one. It really is just Azrael and like one other champ in the game. So I'm really interested to see more people buy Bork now. Maul and Malmortius. MR increased base, the shield value increased. She was no longer scale with bonus MR. Most champions who like Maul aren't looking to stack resistances, so we're tweaking it to its shield value to not scale with future MR. Okay, I think that's fine. Yeah, that's true. Typically, you're not buying Maw and buying like Maw, Visage plus like adaptive. I think that the only times where it's been kind of weird for me is when the AD buys Maw QSS and then I literally can't kill them because the shield is so high. So I don't mind this change. It's not really important. GA cost increased, armor increased. When Marksman to face physical heavy comps to get a chain vest rather than cloth armor, knowing they'll eventually build into something else. Okay, so they increased the armor. Well, generally ADs aren't gonna like this because they wanted the cheap cost because the biggest thing was the active as opposed to the actual armor. And so this is definitely a nerf. I actually think GA might have been a little bit too good regardless, even for bruisers, so I don't mind the nerf at all. Banner Command, this item is super OP. Enhanced minions are highly resistant to magic physical damage rather than entirely immune. Okay, so they're it's for both. CDR gets removed, no longer grants the 100% immunity. It is 70% immunity reduction from champions. Now appear on the minimap. That's interesting. For damage dealt by banner minions. I think it makes this item overall a lot worse. Because a lot of the reason, I mean, it should be worse, right? That's the reason. A lot of people bought this item to counter AP threats. And on top of that, they bought this item because it gave you 10% CDR. And so just nerfing the CDR and then adding this, it's going to be a really, really situational item now. I don't necessarily know when you'll want to do this, to buy this item, because, yeah, I'm really shocked they nerfed the CDR as well. This item seems, the value of this item seems really, really bad. Well, I mean, this item was too good in the first place. I don't mind a meta without banners, at least for a little bit. Shirley's Reverie, this item was too cost efficient. Needs to be nerfed, for sure. Movement speed decreased, cost increased, base mana added, active cooldown increased. Okay, movement speed decreased here, mana regen, active. Okay, and they did this. The gold cost, perfect. This item's way too OP. Like, that's all I can say. It got to the point where, like, this is relatively a support oriented item. A lot of tanks were buying this item as well because it is so stat efficient that people were just willing to all in on it. And it was also really low cooldown. It gave yourself such a good team utility item. A lot of the problems of this item are actually similar to items of the old, whatchamacallit, that one item that Sins used to, Righteous Glory. Righteous Glory used to be a speed up movement thing for your whole team. And then Riot Games like, you know what? This was too good. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make it single target instead. And then 3 seasons later, we're going to introduce the exact same item that we released and then give it like movement speed and AP and health and then call it something different. And so it's funny that I got to this situation, but thank God I got nerfed. It's actually a lot better than people expect. The thing is, Shirley's Reverie as a support item is crowded out because because Zeke's is so good as well. So Shirley's and Zeke's are both really, really strong right now. I'm hoping to see a Zeke's nerf the closer we go down. No Zeke's nerf. All right. Enchantment Runic Echoes. This item sucks and it makes a lot of AP junglers not able to be jungle anymore because they just got nerfed last patch. On top of the fact that most AP junglers can't skirmish early, so it's difficult to contest scuttles in the current meta. So what they do, they just increase the AP by 20. Wow, that's a big ass buff. I like it. I love it. Hopefully we'll see a lot more AP junglers that aren't just Eve. But this is good. This is really, really nice. 60-80 is a big deal. Big ass buff. Dude, I don't even care about the move speed. They gave 20 more AP. That's a lot of power. 20 AP is a ton of... they just threw gold on top, you know. Rune's Fleet nerf. Great. Fleet was... The one thing about lowering sustain is the fact that D-Shield exists in the game. And so while they nerfing sustain for runes like Fleet, I'm interested if they'll ever look to nerf D-Shield or if Riot Games likes the champion diversity that comes with having D-Shield in the game. But I do agree, Fleet's too good, so cool. Haste is decreased, and crit no longer gives additional healing. Cool. Hail of Blades. One of the goals is to give champions options about what tree to go into depending on when they want to play. Domination is a tree about burst, which is making it appealing to some of the burstier marksmen, but there's no real keystone for them. Is this a shout out to Draven? A Hail of Blades should help spell-based marksmen who want to lay down a swift chunk have a keystone to promote that playstyle. Gain 50 to 100% attack speed for 3 attacks. If no more than 1.5 seconds elapses between the attacks, this effects will end. Like temporarily exceed the attack speed limit. 5 seconds out of combat. Interesting Diana keystone. The first thing I think of is this a marksman item? No, this is a Draven keystone, right? Because Draven, like any of the champions that build Conquer and AD, don't really want to do that because they're ranged. This is interesting. I think a lot of the ADs will really enjoy Halo Blades. Anything that likes a lot of attack speed early, even stuff like Kog'Maw might even find this to be okay if they're willing to give up Fleet for it, especially after Fleet got nerfed. So I'm kind of very interested to see how this works out. Ultimate Hunter. Been looking at changing Ultimate Hat for a while as a rune based around the Spike of Power. I just felt like an exciting option for domination. We're bringing in line with the Hunter paradigm and replace a replacement for Ulti Hat. Your ultimate now gains 5% reduced cooldown plus 2% per bounty stack. Oh, it's 100 for all. What? Is that really that good? I think that's really bad. At most, you get 15% reduced cooldown on just your ulti. Like ulti hat for me was like super overrated when it came to. It's even on the tree in sorcery. I think this isn't enough. Maybe they do it 3%. I think that I would never take this over the other options. Definitely not as a jungler, and ideally not as any champion in the game, except for maybe I'm going Aftershock and Moo, and I'll take this. But if I'm going Aftershock or not Aftershock, Electrocuted Moo. But if I'm going that, then who cares about min-maxing, you know? Okay, let's keep going to sorcery. Nimbus Cloak. Battle mages feel good about a rune that gives them to stay or fight in a fight where they push their go button. What does that mean? Shortly after casting your ultimate, gain 100 move speed decaying over the next 2.5 seconds. Diana rune. For the duration of this movement speed, you can pass through units. Corky rune. Oh, it's got a cooldown, so maybe not Corky rune. Nimbus Cloak's cooldown is affected by CDR. Okay, Sway might like this as well. 100 move speed is quite a bit. Vlad will love this. Vlad already gets so much though. I don't think Vlad needs more buffs. Kennen will really like this too. And so I guess it does have some cool aspects for a lot of champions who want to initiate. Unfortunately, some of the initiating champions are one and done with their ulti, like Annie, so maybe they might not get as much value as a move speed. And maybe Victor will like this as well. This is definitely very. I like this over ulti hat for sure. Like I can see myself using this a lot. I think it's a powerful rune in the hands of certain champions, like Diana, like Rakan, like Fiddlesticks, like just throwing out random stuff all over the place. Minion Dematerializers offering too much wave control too early in the game. I thought they were removing this rune. I think sure. It means you can't use it at level 3. You have to use it at level 4.5? No, level 4. Okay. I mean, I'm down for this. The value of Dematerializer decreases though by quite a bit, but I mean, it's still probably going to be taken as the best rune in that tree. So you're still going to see people with it, but 240 is a long time. Turret durability. Okay, wait, before I go, I'm going to say I like the introduction of Nimbus Cloak. I don't care about Ultimate Hunter. I think this is garbage, and I think it was overrated on the sorcery tree as well. Halo Blades will be nice to fill out some of the holes for certain champions and AD champs, but maybe some bruisers might want this as well. I'm not exactly sure which ones. They seem to be very attack speed focused, might be interested in this, but I think Riot's hope is that Conquer fills most of the bruisers options, and so this is really only for very, very, very rare cases. And I really like the nerf to Fleet. I think this is beyond necessary. Combination of this and the health sustained nerfs on the ADs are great nerfs overall. So okay, turret durability. Inhibitor and Nexus turret health decreased. Inhibitor health regen increased. Nexus and Inhibitor can only regen health up to the next third. When you give defenders something you feel good about when they do hold off a push on the base, also giving CG teams meaningful milestones other than tower destroyed. So I'm surprised they nerfed the Nexus. Like, I actually think, and this is gonna be really weird, I think that the Nexus should be a little bit healthier. Because I think that Nexus is like really weak, and so by nerfing the Nexus turn health by this much, it's 900 health. Holy shit! Like almost by like, yeah, it's by 900 health, right? I'm like worried that I'm gonna get in a situation where like I see the open Nexus more and it just dies, like it just poof, just explodes. I do not mind the milestone thing. I generally just think this is whatever. Like, I don't care about any of this stuff. The fact that they nerfed the Nexus turret health by this much, though, is the only thing that really has a big ramification for me. Everything else is like, sure, I don't know if I'll feel very meaningful for this. I guess if I'm attacking, I'll feel meaningful if the inhib's at 1/3. But generally, when I'm the attacker, I feel like if I risk it all for the inhib and I don't get it, I just don't get it. You know, that's the punishment that happens. And if I don't get it and it regenerates up, I don't care. It's just like I messed up, or the defenders did a great job. I don't really see a need to do this. Like I don't personally think this is important, but maybe people do think this is important. Not sure. Turret gold. More of the turret gold is granted locally rather than globally. Similar to bounty changes, we're looking to decrease the number of truly global objectives in the game. Allow players to have a large impact more personally. I like that. Okay. 300 gold split among normal stuff and 100 to allied champions. Cool. I think that's cool. It makes it so that if you do snowball an area, you can feel really good about the gold that you get rather than the gold you're splitting with your team. Baron Nashor. Attack speed decreased. Base corruption damage decreased. Special attack speed decrease. Special attacks no longer apply corruption. Definitely does too much damage. Not even sure if that's true. I actually kind of like the current version of Baron. I think it should be relatively hard to do. I think they nerfed it by too much. Like oh my god, they nerfed the base corruption damage by half and the corruption ratio by a little bit. Like and then special attacks no longer. I'm down to make it tough. Like I think it should be tough. It's obviously tankier than people expect, right? And I think that's good that it's tanky. However, I think that maybe it was a little bit too powerful. I think having the corruption damage it's a lot. Like I was hoping that it would just be like a little bit of a nerf, and instead we got this humongous one. Skelly Crab, respawn timer increase, shrine duration increase. Action around Skelly Crab is making for a good mini objective, but it's currently up too often. I actually agree with this. I think it is up a lot. And so a lot of times I'm like ganking and being like, holy shit, Skelly's up already. Forcing too much of a jungler's attention onto continuous respawn. Compensate for fewer Skellies overall. We're pushing some experience back to the basic camps. Okay. I think that's reasonable. I like these changes. If basic attack would fail to hit a minion by 4 health or less, it will kill that minion solely to help transition players through the highly disruptive patches. Every patch after patch at 8 level reduces number by 1. Sure. Thank you for the training wheels, right? I appreciate it. ARAM, Butcher's Bridge. I don't play ARAM. Ping distance volume. Certain pings now change depending on how far away they are from the listening player and in what direction. Wow. That's so... I didn't think that'd be nice, but that's definitely nice. It's like it's a quality of life thing where it's like, does it really matter? No, but it's cool that they're doing it, I think. Instant feedback. We're sprucing up reform cards with clarity past this patch. Reform cards are getting some spring cleaning, so we're adding per game tasks for chat logs and making it clear for chat what is pre, mid, or post game. Cool. Sure. Okay. Prestige emotes for level 400 to 500 will come out during this patch. What the heck? I'm at level 100. I play every day. How are people getting 500? This skin is sick. Darkwater Diana, nice job, right? Good stuff. Darkwater Vlad, okay, this is like nice stuff. And that's pretty much it. All right. Whew, what do I have to say? I kind of thought they'd do a little bit more with Scuttle. I guess let's focus on the stuff on this overall patch. I like that they're nerfing sustain for ADs. I think that you want to increase the amount of skill people can do in lane for bot lane, especially. I like that a lot. I think jungle is still too early game focused, and that's a really big problem. And conversely, also affects the bot lane changes because bot lanes can't go aggressive when the junglers are literally allowed to level 2 them, right? That's very problematic actually. So you don't even know how well these changes are going to do until you see that. There are a lot of nerfs into this game, especially on Banner, that are really nice. I think Banner is way too impactful. Should have been nerfed a while ago. Good job on that. I think that they're nerfing crit itemization a lot, but some of the really OP champions will already be good with them, and so you should see stuff like Lucian come back. But on top of that, you should still see Ezreal and Kai'Sa at the very top. And in fact, maybe there'll be multiple heads above the competition now, which is a bad thing, but possibly needed to balance the game better in future patches. I think that their nerfs at the junglers overall were pretty good. Wish there's a bigger nerf on the Graves, and there's still a lot of problems with champions like, I would say, Aurelia, Kai'Sa, that I would like nerfed as well. Zoe. Hopefully you're gonna see that next patch. I guess for me, I expected different stuff than I got, and I wouldn't say the stuff that I got was bad. Some of it, the only thing that I'm just like, the Victor changes don't matter like that much really. But aside from that, like, it's a good patch. I guess for me, I'm a little bit disappointed because I expected more quicker adjustments. But I think a lot of the really quick adjustments onto champions that are strong right now need more data from Riot to be able to see. And I can understand that in the sense that they're changing so much from patch to patch. Like they're only able to catch enough data like a couple weeks in, and already by then they're releasing a monster patch again. But I think there's a lot of really problematic champions in the game, and we're just going to be throwing more changes into a state where there's already a problem. And I don't know if we're going to come out with something that's great at the end. I think that this game's just going to be really messy for the next month or two, and that's just the expectation around mid-season. Certainly nothing's going to change with that expectation.